there and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. Come along with our triumvirate of terror as we descend into darkness, hurtle into horror, and plunge into peril. If you like apples, or fruit in general, you're in the right place. I'm Justin, and I would survive in the woods. We've talked about this already.
I'm Nico, and Dan would survive better than you. We've talked about this already.
That's true. Well, I'm White Dan.
Oh.
Wow.
No lies detected. No lies detected. And we're here today to review The Witch, 2015. This was directed by Robert Eggers, starring Anya Taylor-Joy as Thomasin, Ralph Ineson as William. His son was Harvey Scrimshaw as Caleb, and Katie Dickey as Catherine. We open with a Puritan family in the 1630s. As it turns out, they got some beef with the town where they live, so family patriarch William takes his family and heads out to build his own farm outside of town. Things are good for a while, but this quickly changes. One day, Thomasin, the eldest child, is watching over her infant brother when he vanishes in the blink of an eye. Thomasin is a stupid name. If that's your name, don't at me. Despite all their searching, the family's unable to locate the infant. William says that a wolf stole the baby, but in reality, we see it was a witch. We actually get to watch her boil him, mash him, and stick him in a stew, maybe, or even a witch's brew. Who would know? Nico, maybe you.
Why you gotta put that evil image and no. Anyway, the family reels from the loss of its youngest member, just like I'm reeling from Justin's accusations, but winter is fast approaching, and they need some food. Their crop is failing, and William takes Caleb, the second eldest child, to the woods to hunt. The pair are, unfortunately, unsuccessful, and they return to the farm, lying to William's wife, Catherine, that they went to find apples. Thomasin goes to wash her father's clothes, and Caleb shows up. The family lives in isolation, and there's no other chicks his age around, so Caleb kinda has the hots for his sister. More on that later. The two remaining members of the family, the twins, who are just the worst, show up, and Thomasin plays a joke on them, saying that she is a witch.
Nico, that is all true what you said there, but I know that if I need a good joke, I can turn to Dan. Dan, what happens next?
Dan, tell me a joke right now.
Well, the joke is that William and Catherine talk about how they got no food and they're about to starve. So they talk about potentially sending Thomasin to go live with another family, sparing her and lessening the food burden on the family. Unfortunately, like most parents, they talk way too loud and their children overhear. So Caleb takes upon himself to venture into the woods and see if he can find any food. Maybe if he can, then Thomasin won't have to leave. Thomasin finds him and makes him take her along with him.
I'll tell you right now, if we were starving and Dan was going into the woods, I got your back, Dan. I bring my bow and arrow. I bring my sling and shot.
Yeah, your sling and shot?
The woods can't handle us right
Your
now.
sling and shot, so these are two separate implements.
No, sling and shot.
Sling and
The shot
shot.
is
Is
slinging.
this like a gas station? Sling and
That was-
shot?
That was the original name of what you call the slingshot.
Mhm.
But either way,
Cap.
the pair head into the woods, and they come across a hare that their dog chases down. Caleb chases after the dog, and the horse starts tripping out, causing Thomasin to fall and be knocked unconscious.
Actually pretty funny.
Caleb follows the dog until he runs across a witch, and he falls prey to her lustful charms. Meanwhile, Thomasin wakes up and heads back home, facing the wrath of her parents for Caleb literally being the second kid to disappear on her watch. Thomasin, what you doing?
She's got a real bad track record.
Yeah.
That night, Caleb shows up, naked and bewitched. Nico, sometimes you be wearing that robe with the chest exposed, so I'm gonna let you take this next section.
Okay. I don't understand, but okay. The next day, Caleb starts going into convulsions like I guess you were implying I do, so thanks for that. He vomits up an apple, like intact. Yum. And confesses to his sins before saying that he loves Jesus, and then he dies, just like on the spot. William and Catherine fly into a rage, and the twins and Thomasin accuse one another of being witches / consorting with the devil. Thomasin in particular points out that one of the goats on the farm is named Black Phillip, who whispers to the twins, and that he's Lucifer in disguise. William compromises by locking the twins and Thomasin, That's the most wild compromise I've ever heard of. He compromises by locking the three of them in the stable with the goat who is supposedly the devil. That'll show him, I guess. And that night, Thomasin and her siblings wake up to see a witch drinking the blood of a goat in the stable. Oops. If only this could have been avoided. Meanwhile, Catherine has a dream about her two dead sons. But in reality, she is also bewitched, and a crow is pecking her breasts.
Sometimes when you got a wild ass scenario, you just got to turn to Dan to reason what's going on. So Dan, I need you to untangle this web.
He is our straight man of the group.
Well, in the following morn, William wakes up and sees that the goat stable is wide open. The goats are all dead, and the twins are gone. Plus, Thomasin has blood on her hands. Black Phillip shows up and kills William, and then Catherine attacks Thomasin, who kills her mother in self-defense. Overwhelmed, Thomasin just, goes to sleep.
That's a me move for real.
Yeah, for real. That night, Thomasin goes into the goat shed and asks Black Phillip to speak to her. He takes a human form and asks what she wants. Well, naturally, she asks what can he give, and he says that he can let her live life deliciously. She accepts, so she takes off her clothes and signs her name in his book. The movie ends with Thomasin going into the woods and joining a witch's coven as they partake in a primal ritual. The end.
All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about here, so let's get right into it. Dan, how's this movie look, my lord?
It looks bleak, my guy. It's very gray. It's very just very gray. There's not a lot of sun. There's not a lot of color. There's some rain and everything. But I liked a lot of the shots of like the forest at the beginning or in the earlier half or so of the movie. We get some of these. They live right on the outskirts of a forest. So we get some of these sort of dread-inducing shots of the forest, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, very bleak looking.
Yeah, I like in particular the shots of the forest, like you said. I also like the witch shots, the 3 that there are in the movie, but I like those quite a bit. If I had to say anything about the cinematography that I didn't like, is that this movie's very dark. And I don't mean like subject matter dark. I mean, the shit is dark. So I didn't necessarily think that was great in certain scenes, but overall, I like the way it looked. Nico, how about you?
Yeah, I think the way I would describe this movie is that it looks authentic. I really feel like this is exactly what the New England countryside would have looked like in the 1630s or whenever the hell it was specifically. There's no fanciful bursts of color. There's no lens flares. There's not even really that much that's going on in terms of really creative edits. It's just kind of a what you see is what you get. And I think they did as good of a job portraying that time period as they could have.
I'm waiting for the next Chills video. Pilgrims caught in 4K. And just going from that. Either way, Dan, the sound to this movie, how'd you feel about it?
Sounds pretty good. I liked the cacophonous singing and choir of the witches' coven that we kind of hear throughout the film. Again, like I mentioned before with the shots of the forest, a lot of times when we see that kind of shot, there's also this, what you kind of learn-ish sort of later is that it's probably like the witches' coven that is making those singing cacophony things. But no, I liked it. And when sometimes near the end when we see the witch, we get a very like high-pitched drone string section or stringed instrument, violin, viola maybe. And I liked it.
I will say this movie also has a lot of moments of silence where there's no score at all. It just is what it is, kind of like what Nico said about the cinematography. And that's cool. I appreciate when there is silence in movies. Now, I got to say this, and I don't hold this against the movie at all, because again, it was trying to be authentic. But the way they talk, bro, I just can't take it serious. Get thee back, daughter mine. Father, forsooth, I am no witch. I knoweth not. But where's my silver cup? So, yeah, that was that was grating on me, but I can't hold it against the film because that is how people spoke.
It's not for everyone, though. Like, I will even say that. Like, and to be fully transparent, at the end of the movie, Eggers goes and says that, like, some of the spellings and dialogue was based off of old documents that he found. So, like, he really did his due diligence, but it's still not going to be for everyone.
Agreed. But what else you got to say about the sounds?
I don't know that there's much else to say except that I really like the performances. In particular, I think that Ralph Ineson was fantastic as the father here. I could feel his dread and anxiety and just the weight of all the responsibility that he felt. And of course, I think Anya Taylor-Joy also gave a great performance.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's go ahead and break down the themes, shall we? So, what themes do you see in this movie?
I think there's a lot of themes in this one.
Asterisk. Get ready for my hating to commence. Continue, Dan.
All right. I think there's a lot of themes in this one. One is man versus nature. Maybe.
For true.
Sometimes that's just one goat in particular.
Yeah, fuck that goat.
I fucking love Black Phillip, man. How do you, with horns that curl back, go and stab someone in the stomach? I don't understand that.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, all right. It's fine.
I think another big theme is adulthood or coming into adulthood. I think a lot of this movie is sort of a coming of age for Thomason. Yeah, those are the two main ones that I see.
Very well.
Also
very
for
well.
Caleb a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Nico, what other themes do you see? What's your themology?
So I am a fan of this movie to, I think, nobody's surprise in general. I think I've mentioned it a number of times on the pod that this is one of the sort of quintessential, what I like to describe as the good for her movies. And
I knew you were going to do that. Throw down that gauntlet. Let's go.
Yeah. So at the end of the movie, we see Thomasin gain her freedom and lose the shackles of her family, I guess, in one way to put it, and go and join a coven of witches who embrace her and allow her to quite literally ascend into another realm of perhaps cryptidness, perhaps divinity, perhaps something else entirely. But it is one of the, I think, central conflicts is Thomasin's fight for her agency, and she does finally gain it in the end. So
I will broke a slight disagreement with you in that I disagree with everything you just
who
said.
could have seen this coming?
Surely not me.
Pew, pew.
You said Thomasin gets her agency back and her freedom,
Yeah.
but she basically signs her life away. She
fine.
replaces the shackles of her family with those of the devil.
I mean, the devil
So-
seems like a pretty chill guy compared to her family. So,
Does he really?
yeah, he offers her like butter and the levitate spell, whereas her family like tries to kill her multiple times.
Her family only tries to kill her because they're bewitched.
I'm not so sure about that.
Or do they?
Well,
More
who
on
tries
that
to kill her?
later.
The moms. True, more
And
on that
the-
later.
Father.
But I posit that Thomasin is a rube who falls
rube?
for the
Rube
devil.
Goldberg machine?
No, she's just a rube. And
Mm.
she falls for the devil. And
When's the last time
witch's
you heard
trap.
someone call another person a rube? It's on some like 1920 shit. Bringing back some real old-timey ones tonight, folks.
Watch
had
old-timey
to.
movie?
It's old-timey movie.
Fair
She
play.
was a dullard, if you will.
A dullard?
Bring back
Bro.
the dunce cap. So I say that to say some themes I noticed in this movie were first and foremost temptation and
Okay.
the lack of willpower that people have to resist temptation,
Sure.
particularly Thomasin. I also think, to Dan's point, that man versus nature, while it's kind of buried beneath everything, that is kind of for me, what causes a lot of the problems in this movie to happen. Because real talk, if they were baller, Like if their corn was growing good, that wouldn't really be a problem.
Yeah, if the circumstance surrounding the conflict in the movie was completely reversed, things would have been fine. Astute observations, Justin, once again.
I don't got nothing to listen to from a Thomason defender. Let's move on to the sins of the family. Nico, what sins did Thomason and maybe the rest of her family have?
I'm not gonna lie, I think they are all victims to organized religion, like hardcore, because they haven't done like fuck all wrong. They just are really down on their luck. Like, aside from how they treat each other, like, I don't think they're on the level of some people who should be like cast out and excommunicated and all the hubbub that was sort of surrounding the opening sort of premise there. I just thought it was like, again, sort of, yes, period accurate, but almost in the eyes of 2024, perhaps melodramatic.
Well, I disagree with you, but let's go to Dan. Dan,
who could have seen this coming?
So I thought this was really interesting, and I actually really liked how this kind of played out because I think each of the family members represents a different sin.
Fully agreed.
You have Caleb, who is lust.
Yes.
Yeah.
The father is pride, I think.
Yes.
Sure.
You have the mother, I'm guessing is more of like wrath because she gets angry a lot.
I was going to
I
say
don't know.
either wrath or envy. I could see either one, but keep going.
Yeah, that's fair.
If that's the case, then the daughter, the youngest, is probably wrath because she's the fucking worst. She just incites shit all the time.
I disagree, but Dan, I think you're going to say it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the two younger kids are sloth, maybe?
Yes!
As they're always slacking off and they can't get control of them.
Are they both sloth, or is one sloth and one is something different?
I kind of put them as both sloth, but I mean, they very well could be something different too. I didn't think that far.
Then is Black Phillip wrath?
He's not the family.
Fair.
And Thomason, I think, is, I don't remember what I had thought she was. Whatever.
So Dan, first and foremost, I'd like to give you another round of applause. Thank you. Done. Well fucking done. Yes. Those are the exact things I was going to say for each of them. Those are the sins of the family, in my opinion, because you're absolutely right. The father is prideful, believing himself to be the true, Christian, and leaving the safety of the town because they're not on his level, And then you've got the mother who, you're right, I think wrath is a good potential. There's also, again, envy, but she is just a shit to her daughter sometimes when she doesn't need to be. And the twins are sloth. Absolutely. They don't do shit. They don't contribute shit for shit. And the only thing I would add to that is I actually do think Thomason is maybe gluttony or potentially greed, like one of the two. I could see that because the mom knows about her and like the silver cup, and she was like really looking at it. And also, she didn't want to leave the finer things of the town, finer things in air quotes. So I think it's really interesting that they kind of added sins to the family. And the one who truly kind of repents is Caleb, because at the end of it all, he apologizes for what he did. And he asks, like God to take him to his embrace, and he just straight up dies. And he has like the best death of anyone in the family, because I'm pretty sure that the three youngest members of the family got ground up into paste. But carry on.
See, I would be more willing to buy into the like 7 deadly sins if there was actually 7 of them. I don't think they can be like neatly ascribed to each of the characters. I think they all can portray all of them. And like, I don't really think about the specific, and again, my earlier comments sort of allude to this, but like, I don't necessarily think about the way that they sinned in that sort of like more grand, like the 7 deadly sins kind of way, just because it again was just so, again, the only word I can say is melodramatic.
I mean, I think even if you go outside of the 7 deadly sins, I mean, you have the father who hides the things that he did and allows the mother to take it out on their daughter. Mm-hmm. That's not a very good thing. That's kind of sinful,
for sure,
if you will. You've got, I mean, Thomason kind of like goes in on her kid, or not her kids, on her siblings, like lying to them occasionally, or like making up stories like that she's the witch and like trying to scare them. And more like, I don't really think she was joking. I mean, I don't think she was the witch. More on that later. But I mean, she was clearly trying to scare them.
Sure.
And again, not as a joke. So I think throughout the movie, most of the characters, even if you don't ascribe the 7 deadly sins to them, I think most of the characters do act somewhat sinfully.
Sure, that's fair.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And would you look at the time? Later is now. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions here. First and foremost, do we think that there really was a witch, or is this just a really extended metaphor?
Yeah, I mean, the kid got yoinked.
So I do think there's a witch. However, I was reading some things online and it actually kind of got me questioning it a little bit because a lot of the things that the witch does can be explained otherwise.
Explain.
Otherwise.
You know, like we see like the 2 young kids see the witch drinking the milk from the goat or whatever. But in that shed, who we don't see in that scene is Thomason.
Yes.
So I'm kind of wondering, maybe that was Thomason. And the kid does get taken. And I think it is maybe a little far-fetched to say it was a wolf. However, they do talk about how there were wolf tracks and everything like that. So, you know, that can be explained. And it could be that the witch is what the family or the people think is happening to people. So Caleb goes missing in the woods. He comes upon the witch, but that could be the family's interpretation of what happened to Caleb. And, oh no, our young son, our baby got stolen. It could have been a witch. And one thing that I found interesting, somebody pointed out, was that the title card, I'm going to get this slightly wrong. The title card in the film says The Witch, a New England folktale.
Yeah.
You're right. So, you know, a lot of folktales come from people trying to explain what happens in the real world and bad things that happen in things. So this could very much be a story of a family who has this just bad luck with nature and all that kind of stuff, and trying to strike it on their own. And the witch is how they explain a lot of these bad things that are happening, that either they don't know enough because just science in the world hasn't progressed as far as we have at this point, or they just don't want to admit certain things because the father's too prideful or, you know, whatever. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, that is a really interesting interpretation and train of thought. And I did consider that because I also use the internet and I found people musing about certain things. But I will say, I want there to be a witch. I do kind of want there to be a witch. The horror fan in me wants there to be a witch. Now, bearing all this in mind, do you think Thomason was a witch the whole time?
No.
I do not.
I don't think she was a witch until the very end.
So, in my opinion, I think Thomason is targeted by the witch. I don't think she officially becomes a witch until like the very end, but I think there's a lot of foreplay going on there ahead of time.
I agree with that.
Foreshadowing.
Nope.
So, first off, the kidnapping of the little kid. All right, this witch must have like done a line of speed or something, because holy shit, she Sonic the Hedgehog, ran up, grabbed the baby, and ran away.
Quietly.
She had a Sandevistan, bro.
Bro, I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah. Or a like stealthy boomerang. Just yoink.
And the thing that killed me about it was that was very clearly supernatural, but if it was unreliably narrated, then maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't just a simple peekaboo. Maybe it was Thomason did something else and came back and the baby was gone.
True.
So that's why I really considered what Dan was talking about. But even past that, Thomason runs over to the woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think she might have seen something. And I think from then on, this family, which is isolated, I think the witch and the coven, they do these things to the family to pull them into not test their faith, but to corrupt their faith. And I think they're the reason why their corn doesn't grow. I think they're the reason why everything fucks up. You know, things just go wrong. Everything that can go wrong does. And finally, they've been shown that they can control people's behavior and make them do things. You know, having the mom kind of breastfeed a crow when she thinks she's breastfeeding her kid. And I think it was kind of the reverse for Thomasin. I think she does drink the blood of the goat, which is super satanic. And I think that opens her up because she has the blood on her hands. And I think the kids are gone because they've been taken to be ground up into baby paste by the witches. So I really do think that maybe she wasn't a witch, but I think she might have been slowly corrupted the whole movie until the very end when she opens up and accepts it.
I'm with you on that.
Sure.
So I want to talk now about favorite character and least favorite character. We'll start with you, Nico. Who was your favorite character and who was your least favorite character? Please include a reason why.
I think my favorite character was Black Phillip, both as the goat and as the like human form that we briefly see / hear interacting with Thomasin. One, because he was a verifiable force of chaos the entire time, and I loved that. But also, I really like the sort of otherworldly, whispering etherealness that is exude from that one interaction where he again poses, "Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?" Like that's probably my favorite scene in the movie. But my least favorite character was again both of the young twins, those two little kids. I was so glad when they both just went kaput.
Mm-hmm. Dan, how about you?
I think my favorite character was the father. I think he does some shit that I don't like.
For sure.
But I feel like he kind of got better as the movie went on. Like in the second half of the movie, he was far cry from noble, but I think he had a couple redeeming scenes to me. And even though he still wasn't that great, I feel like at that point it was him trying to understand what was happening and prescribe reason to things that were happening. And, you know, he's super religious, so he kept, you know, falling back on religion so much. And, you know, I don't think he always made the right decisions. I'm talking in the second half. I don't think he made a lot of good decisions in the first half at all. But in the second half, even the decisions he made that weren't great, I think were again, just him trying to understand what was going on and do his best. And even like when he thinks that, what was it? I think after the whole like Caleb scene, demonic kind of Caleb thing near the end.
Where he vomits the apple or?
Yeah. That after that's over, Thomasin kind of like stumbles out and he goes and he comforts her. And at that point, he thinks that she is a witch, but he comforts her first and then kind of starts to accuse her, but not accuse in like a super mean way, but kind of like, hey, all of these things happened. How else can you explain this? And I don't think he was being a dick necessarily, but he was just, scared. I don't know how else. Yeah, scared. And I don't know how else to explain this. So I kind of liked his growth a little bit.
Fair play to you. My favorite character was Caleb. I think that, first off, I don't think he really has the hots for Thomasin specifically. No. I think his isolation and just he's becoming a young man, and I think he can't help but linger for 2 seconds on his sister every now and again, which sounds weird to say, but if you were fucking ISO, which I don't know anyone who's been that ISO that it's just them and their family, but who knows? Like, who knows what you might do? And again, he doesn't like try and creepily like feel up on her or anything. He just a glance that lingers too long here and there, but he cares for his sister and he cares for his family. Like, little man was out here getting ready to ride into the woods by himself.
Yeah.
Like, that takes courage, bro.
It does.
And I think he is the family member that most tries to be what he needs to be. In the beginning, his father asks him, "What is your sin?" And he fires it off immediately. You know, the twins can't even remember their verses, but Caleb knows them. And Caleb is there with his father. Caleb covers for his father. Caleb just wants to be good. He wants to keep his family whole and together. And I respect him for that. I really, really do. I also, shout outs to the actor. I think the best acted scene is his little monologue where he does the whole praise to Jesus moment. That was like a really good scene. I really appreciated him in that moment, and to do it so young as well. Like, I read about how they coached him to do it because he like was not grasping it at first. And I think they had to relate it to like sports for him to like actually get what was going on. So that's really cool. My least favorite character is Thomason.
Who could have seen this coming?
And this is where I will disagree with Nico's kind of good for her moment, because Thomason is easily seduced by the dark side, to use a phrase. And I feel like she is just, to me, just like a person that gets controlled. And the end where she goes and joins up with the witches coven, I'm just like, bruh, like, you are stupid as shit. You just signed your soul to the devil. You literally signed and sealed it on the dot. So enjoy that shit, I guess, but you're going straight to hell, and you signed your soul away from the devil, or to the devil, and I ain't about that life. So I didn't like her. But shout out to what Dan said about the dad, because he was kind of my second favorite. Definitely didn't like the mom, and definitely didn't like the twins either. Like, they suck.
Yep.
And before I do this, listeners of the podcast, you must surely know, for all the times we've asked this question, let this be the most unanimous of unanimous. Is this prestige horror? Oh, you guys aren't going to give me the fucking honor or the justice? Yes, it is. Sure it is. Yeah, it is. Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate that one.
Anytime, we're here for you.
Yep, sure thing.
All right, then. Let's take it now to the what would you do? And I thought for a while, I agonized over this decision. If you were in this family, a member of the family, I'm going to say put you in Thomason's age.
Okay.
Is there anything that you might do differently to try and prevent the downfall?
Run away.
To the town?
Yeah. But also just like, fuck my family. They're all awful.
I don't know that I would, actually. I don't know what I could do, to be honest. Because I want to say, like, the dad mentions at one point that he traded with somebody.
Yeah.
So even though they are secluded, apparently sometimes people do come out at least to trade. Or maybe maybe the father goes into the village. I don't know. So initially I wanted to say that I would talk to somebody in the village who came to trade, or again, I went there maybe, and try to get them to help. But I think if I was her age, I wouldn't have known that. I feel like a lot of the problems that they might have, I'm too young to know or to understand. I mean, not that she's super young, but the father, William, mentions that, their crop isn't growing very well. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it wasn't a pressing issue at the beginning of the movie anyways. It was becoming an issue, but it wasn't like a holy shit.
Yeah.
This is a huge problem yet.
You know what's fucked up about that too, though, Dan? When Caleb goes into the woods, just him and Thomason, he gets a whole rack of rabbits. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
And that could have really helped.
Yeah, it could have. So I don't know what I would have done differently, to be honest.
I think for me, I would focus more so on the town aspect of it. That would be my number one thing, would be like, yo, we should probably look for help from the town because we're about to get fucked up. And maybe also, like, I don't know, like, the timing of when they left, but like, let's give ourselves a full calendar year next time we want to come out and make a farm, because it's tough. And also, I would have looked for more conversation in a more calm way, because the family's always off doing their own thing. Everyone's kind of doing what they're doing, and they don't talk. Like, the two who really talk are Caleb and his father. And I get that Caleb's father probably has a little bit of a preference and a love for his son, because he tells him things he can't tell anyone else. And I know part of that is like, that's my son. He's going to be a man. I got to, talk to him like a man. But it's just generally the father's really open with Caleb, and he's patient too, way more patient than you would think. Caleb won't stop talking about his dead brother, and his father's like, Caleb, what do ye want? I'm like, yeah, I can relate. So that would be my thought process, at least. So I want to take it now to the critic review. And oh boy, what do you think the critics rated this?
I mean, I'm positive it's got to be high, and I know that upsets you, so that brings me great joy.
I'm sure it's also very high. I'm going to say 93.
I'm gonna say 94.
Dan wins.
Yes.
Good.
This is a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience was more realistic and accurate. It's a 60% with the audience.
Okay.
And I want to get your thoughts. Just give me maybe a couple sentences. How you feel about this one?
I thought this one was pretty good. I think it's kind of cool that it can be taken. You can have deeper conversations, like we've had a lot about themes and blah, 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 whatever. But you can also take the movie more at face value and as sort of there's a witch that cursed people and now they're getting fucked. Like it can kind of go either way, I think. I thought it was good. I didn't love it though. It didn't like hit me in my heart or anything like some other movies did. I'm going to give it a 80.
Yeah, copy paste that exact what Dan said. That's me.
Really? I thought you liked it more.
Yeah, like I do really enjoy this movie. I think it's a really good movie. It's just not one that I find myself thinking about a whole lot.
Mm.
So like it does what it does well, and I enjoy it for what it does, but it's not something that like I find myself wanting to revisit, I guess.
I don't like this movie, bro.
Oh,
And
yeah?
for me, it's boring. Shit is like watching paint dry. There is a couple scenes in this movie that I'm like, okay, cool. Like the little possession scene with Caleb, I mess with it. The beginning scene where she's grinding up baby into anchovy paste, I'm down with that. The 10-second interaction between Caleb and the witch that we get to see, that's legit. And then the last like 3 minutes of the movie, dope. But aside from that, it's just these New England accents that I'm not holding against the movie, but they're just there
you're holding
rattling
against
against my
the movie.
brain. And it's just gray. It's just dismal.
What
And
if
ain't
they're
shit
just like,
happening.
get the key to the car. Gotta get in the car.
What if? I would appreciate that.
Oh no, an eldritch horror.
For me, a lot of people really like this movie. And this movie does seem to be kind of polarizing, actually. There are a lot of people who like this movie and a lot of people who don't like this movie. And I don't know. I feel like this is one of those where, for me, historically, this was the first prestige horror I ever saw. I watched it with Dan way back when it came out. And I remember, like, I just didn't like it. Even back then, like, I told Dan I didn't like it. Dan was like, I didn't think it was that bad. And I just didn't like it. And I was the one who recommended that we watch this movie because we've been doing this podcast a while. And I said, maybe I'll like it more now. But I was wrong. I lied to myself and I lied to everyone. I still don't like this.
Oof.
And I just think it's boring. You know what kills me too? Robert Eggers has shown that he has the capability to do what I want. He knows. He knows.
Has he? Because you didn't like his other movie either.
There were a lot of reasons I didn't like The Lighthouse.
Right.
But
so how, if you don't like this movie and the only other movie of his you've seen, how is he displayed for you that he's capable of giving you what you want?
everyone pay attention as I prove it. So despite the fact that I don't like the movies as a whole, there are scenes that I've pointed out that I really like. And I think in particular, that first scene where she's making garlic mince out of the baby, I think that's a really
You really like that scene, huh?
I think it's an amazing scene. I like the scene at the end with the witches in the coven. I like the shots with Black Phillip. Like, there are moments that I'm like, this is awesome. This is really cool. But dog, I am starving for these moments. You are giving me crumbs. Brother, may I have some oats? Because
a moment here with you.
yeah, like, dog, can I get some more, please? I just want more menace. And to kind of quote a random person on Reddit,
Okay.
they said that the horror in this movie is not always necessarily what is being shown on the screen, but the concept of what is being shown on the screen. And the idea is terrifying. Nico often tells me something similar when it's like, well, it wasn't scary, but like there is terror for a person in that moment. And I'm
I don't
like,
fucking sound like that, you ingrate.
hey, it's my moment, okay? It's my time.
Fucking gremlin.
So that is what I dislike.
Fucking brown Caillou over here.
I am hey, you call me the brown Caillou? No, bitch, I'm the brown Ryu. You working towards a shore, you can keep this shit up.
Is that what you tell yourself in the mirror when you ask your hair to grow? Sure, you can.
Nope. It's Tatsumaki Senpaiaku because it flew away in a tornado.
Oh, no.
But either way, I'll say this. This just ain't for me. It's not my cup of tea. If it's your cup of tea, great. They didn't even have tea in this movie. That's how fucking broke they were. And
Yo, real shit. It's just leaves and water, dog.
for all that's worth, it's not my thing. I'm going to give it personally a 56.
That's higher than I was expecting.
So when it comes to recommendations, no, I personally wouldn't, obviously. But I'm assuming the two of you would.
Yeah, I would have.
I think I would have, yeah.
And it being a true indie joint, especially back then, would you have given this either the Golden Seal or Diamond in the Rough?
I would have given it Diamond in the Rough, not Golden Seal.
I don't think I would have, no.
That's
either.
fair.
That's interesting. And dear listeners, I will say again, this is one of those where very clearly one of us just don't like the movie. But here on DOTD, we move as a squad.
Squash shit.
So we don't recommend it, but you might like it. And you might like other things we've done. That's right. You can check every episode we've done on our website, which is DOTD Horror, and then you can talk with us about it. You can hit us on X and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook under Don't Open That Door. So yeah, do you like the Vitch? I said it, haha, because it's VV, it's stylized. It's like Chaverches.
Yeah, and purse.
Yeah. So to bring this to a conclusion, first and foremost, don't kidnap babies. Secondly, look out for one another, especially if one of you happens to be a baby.
Third of all, fuck them kids.
That's what Nico said. I say take care of everyone. But as always, dear listener, don't open that door.